In this video, I'm going to show you how to crochet the star stitch. For materials, you're going to need some yarn and a hook. Now I have some worsted weight yarn here and a 5.5 millimeter hook. Normally I would use a 5 millimeter hook when working with worsted weight yarn, but this stitch does tend to be a little on the tight side, and if you are a tight crocheter kind of like me, you may want to go up one hook size or even two hook sizes. So let's get started. Before I begin, I'd like to point out that there are a couple of different ways that you can begin your foundation chain in your first row. Some will say to start with an even number, some will say to start with an odd number. There's also a couple of different ways that you can end your first row. I'm going to show you what I think works best for me and what I really prefer. However, I will show you, I have made a couple of different swatches, and I'll show you those other methods when I get done showing how to make the stitch. So to begin, I like to start with an odd number of chains. So for me, I'm going to chain 21. If you'd like to pause the video and meet me back here after you have your chains finished, I will show you how to work row number 1. So after your chains are finished, we will begin our foundation row number 1. We're going to be working in 5 of these chains and pulling up loops. So we're going to skip this first one that's right next to the hook, and we're going to work into the second one. Insert your hook, yarn over, and pull up a loop. And we're going to do that 4 more times. Insert, yarn over, and pull up a loop. Insert, yarn over, pull up a loop. And the last one here. So we've done that 5 times. You should have 6 loops on the hook. Then we're going to yarn over and very carefully pull through all 6 of those loops. And then chain 1, and this chain 1 creates the center of our star. So if you look at this here, you have kind of like these little spokes out to the side and a center. From this point forward, we're going to do the same thing all the way to the end. There's going to be 5 different spaces that we're going to be working into. So I'm going to point out those 5 here. The first one is going to be the center of our star right here in that little loop that we just created. And if you look at all of these little spokes, we're going to be working in between the last 2 right here. Then we're going to work into where that last spoke, the base chain that was worked into there, and then picking up the next 2. And I know that's very complicated, what I gave you all at once there, but we're going to go over that really slowly. So first, we're going to go into the center of that star, yarn over, and pull up a loop. And then we're going to work in between the last 2 spokes, and you might want to have to pull these apart to be able to see it at first. This is why it might be helpful to go up a hook size, insert between, just like I did there. I'm going to show that again. Go in between those 2, yarn over and pull up a loop. Then working in the base where that last spoke went into, insert, yarn over, and pull up a loop. So we've pulled up in 3 different spots. We have 2 more. We're going to pull up in the next 2 chains. So yarn over and pull through, and yarn over and pull through. Once again, we have 6 loops on the hook, and just like we did before, yarn over and pull through all 6 of those. And then to close off the star, we're going to chain 1. I'm going to do that a couple of more times because it is kind of a lot to take in at once. Insert into the center of that star, yarn over and pull up a loop. Insert between the last 2 spokes, yarn over and pull up a loop. Insert into the base of that very last spoke, yarn over and pull up a loop. And then work in the next 2 chains, pull up, yarn over and pull up, 6 loops on the hook, yarn over and pull through all 6. And then like before, we're going to chain 1. So I'm going to show that one more time, really slowly here again. Insert your hook into the center of that star, yarn over and pull through. Insert between the last 2 spokes, yarn over and pull through. Insert into this stitch where the last spoke was worked into, yarn over and pull through, and then into the next 2 chains. So we'll work 5 different spots that we need to pull up loops, but then when you finish, you will have 6 loops, yarn over, pull through all 6, and then chain 1 to create the center. So if you like, you can pause the video and continue to create your stars, and then meet me back here when you have 3 chains left at the end of your foundation chain row. Now I'm at the end of my row and I have 3 chains left. I'm going to create my final full star. So I'm going to insert in the center, pull up a loop, insert between the 2 spokes on the end, pull up a loop, insert into the base of that last spoke, pull up a loop, and then into the next 2 chains. You'll be left with 1 chain at the end, yarn over and pull through all 6 of those, and then chain 1 to create your center. So this is what I was saying in the beginning of the video, that you can end differently depending on the pattern. I like to end with a half star, so I'm going to show you how to do that. Instead of working into 5 different spaces, we're going to work into 4. So just like before, I'm going to insert into the center, pull up a loop, insert between the last 2, pull up a loop, insert into the base, and pull up a loop, and then just inserting into 1 chain instead of 2, and pull up a loop. So now I will have 5 loops on the hook. I'm going to yarn over and pull through all 5, and then once again chain 1 to create the center of the stitch. And now we're ready for our foundation row number 2. For foundation row number 2, I'm going to flip my work over here. We're going to be making all half double crochet, so this is a much easier row. We're going to begin with 1 half double crochet and end with 1 half double crochet in the last stitch. So I'm going to chain 1, and then working in that center of the last half star, is what I'm going to call it, I'm just going to put a half double crochet. So yarn over, I'm going to insert into that center, grab my yarn and pull it through. I have 3 loops on the hook, yarn over and pull through all 3. Then I'm going to put 2 half double crochets into each of the center stitches from the star. So if you kind of pull apart here, you can see these little holes where our star centers are. I'm going to put 2 half double crochets into each of those spaces. So yarn over, insert your hook, grab the yarn and pull it through, pull through all 3. I'm going to put 1 more in here and pull through. Show you that a couple of more times here. So in this next space here, you can see I'm going to insert 2 half double crochets. There's 1, and then there's 2. Then when you flip it over, you can see that that creates the top part of those star stitches that we created on the first row. So if you like, you can pause the video and continue to put 2 half double crochets into each of those star centers. When you get to the very end, I will meet you back here and I'll show you what to do on the final stitch. Now I'm at the end. I have 1 more star to work into, so I'm going to put my 2 half doubles into the center of that last star. And if you remember, we began our first row with a series of chains and pulling up stitches. So I just like to put 1/2 double crochet into the top of that first chain there to end the row. So beginning the row with 1/2 double, ending the row with 1/2 double, and putting 2 half doubles into each of those stars. So when you flip it over, we now have created the tops of the stars. So now I'm going to show you the pattern repeat for rows number 1 and 2. For the first row of our pattern repeat, we're going to start off with what I like to call the beginning star. The beginning star is going to be a little bit different, and then after that it's going to be the same as what we have done before. We're going to start with a chain 3, and just like before where we worked into 5 different chains, we're going to work into 2 of these chains and then the next 3 stitches. So starting with the second chain from the hook, not the first one here, I'm going to insert, yarn over and pull up a loop, insert into that next chain, yarn over and pull up a loop, and then in the next 3 stitches, so the first stitch, which is the base of this chain 3 that we did, yarn over and pull up a loop, our next stitch here, and we're working underneath both of those loops, yarn over and pull through, and then in the next one, insert, yarn over and pull through. So once again, 6 loops on the hook, yarn over and pull through all 6 of those loops. And just like before, chain 1 to create the center of the star. And now the pattern repeat for this row is just the same as it was before. You're going to insert your hook into the center, yarn over and pull through, insert between the spokes of the last 2, yarn over and pull through, insert in the base stitch from the very last spoke, yarn over and pull through, and then instead of chains, we're going to work into the next 2 stitches underneath both of those loops. So insert, yarn over and pull through, insert, yarn over and pull through, 6 loops on the hook again, yarn over and pull through, and then chain 1. So continue to do that until you get to the end, and I will show you what to do when you have 3 stitches left. So now I'm at the end of my row. I have 3 stitches left. This one is actually the base of that last spoke on our last star. So I'm going to create 1 full star here. So in the center, in the spoke, on the base, and then in the next 2 stitches, which leaves 1 stitch left out here on the end. So I'm going to yarn over and pull through all 6 and then chain 1 to create my center. So for this one, we're going to do just the same as we did for our foundation row number 1, and I'm just going to create a half star, which means I'm only going to be pulling through in 4 different spots instead of 5. So insert into the center, yarn over and pull through, between the 2 spokes on the end, yarn over and pull through, into the base, yarn over and pull through. Then we have our 1 last stitch here out on the end, going to insert into that one, yarn over and pull through. This time I only have 5 loops on the hook, yarn over and pull through all 5, and then chain 1. Now we're ready for row 2. Row number 2 of the pattern repeat is going to be the same as what we did down here for our foundation row number 2. I'm going to chain 1 and then work into the center of that half star that we made on the end, placing a half double crochet. Now I'm going to put 2 half double crochets into the center stitches of each of those stars that we made in the previous row. So I'm going to continue to do that, making 2 half doubles into each of those star centers, If you'd like, you can pause the video and I will meet you back here when we have one stitch left on the end. And here I've just finished my last 2 half double crochets in that last star center. I'm just going to work a half double crochet in the very end of that chain stitch from before. And now we flip it over, and now we have our second row of stars. In the beginning of this video, I mentioned that there are a few different ways that you can start your foundation chain and how to end your first row. So the way that I just showed was by starting your foundation chain with an odd number of chains and then putting a half star in that final stitch. Another way that you might see the star stitch being worked is by doing an odd number of chains in the beginning and then putting a half double crochet in that final stitch. And this is the way that I've actually been doing for quite some time. However, you may notice that there is a little bit of a gap between that last star and the half double crochet. So you may think, well, what if we just put a full star in the end and start with an even number of chains, which is what I've done here. So I've done an even number of chains, ended with a full star. However, this leaves an odd number of stitches at the top, which is perfectly fine. However, if you're incorporating this into a blanket or another project where you're going to be doing different types of stitches that require an even count, you may have to either add or subtract one of the stitches on the top. The other thing is it kind of leaves a little bit of a, I want to call it a Pac-Man figure here on the end. But if you're putting in a border, it'll probably look perfectly fine. If you've enjoyed this video, please give it a thumbs up and be sure to subscribe to my channel for more crochet tutorials.